Jesus entered a village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary, who sat beside the Lord at his feet, listening to him speak. Martha, burdened with much serving, came to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me by myself to do the serving? Tell her to help me." The Lord said to her in reply, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Every year, the priests of New Hampshire get together for their annual convocation in the spring. It's a great couple days, and it's a chance for all the priests of New Hampshire who don't see each other enough to get together. We usually have a speaker that comes in. We honor the priests who are celebrating significant anniversaries. It's really a good time. For many, many years, we've always had the convocation down at the Red Jacket Inn in North Conway. But this year, for the very first time, we decided to have the convocation right here at the Mountain View in Whitefield. You may not have known it, but back in May, we had 106 priests, 3 bishops, and Cardinal Worrell from Washington, D.C., who was our speaker right here in our parish. We celebrated Mass down at St. Matthew's, and it was quite the sight to see all of those dignitaries filling our little country church. Well, you may think it would be a lot easier for me to have the convocation right here in Whitefield. After all, I don't have to travel all the way to North Conway. Everyone comes to me. But you would be surprised with how much work is involved in keeping a cardinal, 3 bishops, and 106 priests happy and entertained for 3 days. Whereas before, I could just go down to the Red Jacket, enjoy a couple nice days. This year, I had to make sure the church was open, make sure things were set up for Mass, make sure there was enough chairs for everyone. Everyone had directions. One priest, his car broke down in the parking lot. I had to call the garage. One priest, he lost his collar. I had to get him an extra one. One priest, he insisted on taking pictures of every stained glass window in the church when I was trying to lock up. After 3 days of this, I was exhausted, and I felt like I needed a vacation at the Red Jacket Inn in North Conway. If Abraham felt the same way, he certainly didn't show it. When 3 strange men appeared at the doorway of his tent, he wasn't upset by this unwanted interruption. Exhibiting the virtue of hospitality, he opens his home up to these 3 men. He brings fresh water to wash their dusty feet. He yells to Sarah, his wife, in the next room to set 3 more places at the dining room table. He shows the virtue of hospitality. He has no idea who these 3 strange men are. They could be important dignitaries, or they could be simple travelers. But he welcomes them into his home. Do not neglect hospitality, the Bible tells us, for in this way some, meaning Abraham and Sarah, have unknowingly entertained angels. These 3 men do in fact turn out to be angels, and when they see how welcome they are into Abraham and Sarah's home, they realize that that home too is ready to welcome a child. And so they promise Abraham and Sarah, who up until that time had been suffering from infertility, that by the time they return next year, they will have had a son. This is the type of hospitality that we all need to have. When I think of Abraham and Sarah welcoming those 3 strangers to their tent, I always think of the Bedouins who still live in tents out in the desert in the Holy Land to this day. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to take a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and I would always laugh when I saw the Bedouin tents. In many ways, they looked like Abraham's tent. They were very rustic. They had herds of animals walking around, no running water. And yet every single one of these tents would have a big satellite dish outside to pick up cable TV. So I think those tents had a lot more modern conveniences than you might at first think. Hospitality means a lot to people who live out in the desert, who are always a missed meal or an empty water bottle away from potential disaster. And when I was out there in the Holy Land, I had the opportunity to experience real Middle East hospitality. One night in particular, some of the locals in Bethlehem invited our group into their home and gave us a wonderful dinner. I will always remember it. They brought 12 different kinds of salad to the table with different dishes. And they brought different cuts of meat, and they brought desserts. There was so much food. Afterwards, they did a dance around the table to entertain us. And at the end of the night, they wheeled out these big hookah pipes. And And you could take turns smoking on the hookah pipes. I don't think it was anything illegal, it was just kind of a fruit that we were smoking. Well, I will always forget that, and I will always remember that, and that's the type of hospitality, real hospitality, that Abraham and Sarah showed to these three men. In the Christian world, too, hospitality has always been considered an important virtue. Do not neglect hospitality. St. Benedict would tell his monks, when a guest comes, Christ comes. Treat any guest like you would treat Christ himself. And if you have family and friends coming for vacation this summer, you may have the opportunity this summer to exercise the virtue of hospitality, to open up your homes, to blow up the air mattresses, find comfortable beds for everyone, prepare a nice meal. You can surprise them all and wheel out a hookah pipe at the end of the night. Whatever it takes to welcome them. As a parish, during the summer, we always welcome many guests. We welcome our guests who are here today. We don't mind pushing over or giving up our usual seats for the campers and the summer residents and the vacationers who fill up our churches in the summer. Later on this summer, in just 3 weeks, we're going to have the opportunity to welcome many guests here for our Gate of Mercy Day on Sunday, August 7th. We're going to be welcoming Bishop Lavashi. We're going to be welcoming Chris Paget, one of the best Catholic speakers in the country. We're going to be welcoming many people from the North Country who are invited. We're all invited. And just like Abraham and Sarah, we're going to have a big tent out here in the field in the back to house everyone. We won't have dancers, but we will have live music. We'll have inspiring talks. We'll have bouncy houses, activities for the kids and teens and adults. We won't have water to wash people's feet, but we will have a dunk tank. And I haven't told Deacon Mike this yet, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have dunk the deacon at some point during the day. So it's going to be a great day. There's going to be inspiring talks. There's going to be great food, prayer, adoration. It's going to be a wonderful celebration of this year of mercy and of our Catholic faith. So we hope you can all make it. Don't forget that you have to register for that day soon, in fact, by next weekend. So if you haven't done so already, please take a registration home with you that's in the bulletin today. Fill it out. You can give it to me after Mass, or drop it in the collection basket, or return it to the parish office, or you can always register on our website, gateofheavennh.org, but you need to register by next weekend, so please do that sometime this week. Ordinary hospitality is often limited by the rules of common sense and courtesy. There's an old Swahili proverb that says, treat a guest as a guest for 2 days, and on the third day, give them a hug. And maybe I should have done that with the priest, kept getting them to work. But Christian hospitality is a little bit different. Christian hospitality is much more radical. It's not just about welcoming a select group of family and friends. It's about welcoming everyone into the love of God. Especially welcoming people who are difficult to welcome, who maybe find welcome nowhere else because they're sick, or because they're poor, or because they're a foreigner, or because they're mentally ill, or addicted, or challenged in some way. Jesus gives us the example of how to do this when he invites everyone to eat with him at his table. It didn't matter who you were, a prostitute, a tax collector, a sinner, everyone was invited. And we certainly expect and give people the opportunity to grow and to change in Christ, but we don't make that change a condition of welcoming them. It's this type of radical hospitality that Martha in our gospel today doesn't quite get. This Martha, is a little bit like Martha Stewart. She's the perfect hostess. She has all of the details of home decor and meal preparation and ordinary hospitality down to a science. But the one thing that she's missing in all of her bustle is a focus on the guest that Abraham and Sarah had, that her own sister Mary has. She forgets in all of her own problems and worries and her concentration on herself, she forgets Jesus. And we see that she was probably very happy to have Jesus come to her house. He's an important dignitary. He's a famous prophet. But we get the sense that she might be a little bit less excited welcoming all of the poor and the sinners that hung out with Jesus, who would only come in and ruin her perfectly crafted home. And in a terrible breach of decorum, she ends up complaining to her guest, complaining to Jesus about all the hard work that she has to do. You see, hospitality has an enemy, and that enemy is our own selfishness and pride. When we become so wrapped up in our own worries and concerns that we forget about the other. When we jealously guard our own time and our own riches and our own space, and we don't let others in, especially strangers and foreigners in, then we become inhospitable. We become incapable of truly being present to others. And so if we want to exhibit real Christian hospitality, we have to keep our focus on the other rather than ourselves in everything that we do in life. Welcome everyone who comes into your life, especially welcome people who are difficult. Give them the love of God. The guest of Abraham and Sarah turned out to be angels. The guest of Mary and Martha turned out to be the Lord. That strange man that you saw wandering through Whitefield back in May could very well have been a priest or a bishop or Cardinal Wuerl. I know they were a little strange looking, maybe a little difficult, but aren't you glad that you welcomed them